listening to The Making of Her, the show where women learn to lead with clarity, biology backed confidence, and a voice that actually gets heard. I'm your host, Dr. Meghna Dasani. Today I'm talking to someone whose story so many of us will recognize in our bones, Dr. Sheila Samaddar. Sheila built her career the way many women do, quietly, diligently, often feeling like she didn't quite fit the mold. She's an introvert who then became a powerful advocate, a woman who spent years finding her voice in rooms that weren't built for her, and someone who finally realized that the very things that made her feel different were the same things that made her a leader. In this conversation, we're diving into what it really takes to speak up, to stop shrinking, to find belonging without contorting yourself, and to recognize the gifts you've had all along. This one is for the women who've ever felt too quiet, too different, or too much. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Sheila. We were just talking earlier as to how we've never met, although we've been friends forever. So I am super
Yes.
stoked to get to speak with you.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
So we're going to jump into it because I have like a long list of questions that I want to get to. I mean, I feel like I need to like get into your brain.
Oh my goodness.
Now, when you think back to early Sheila, what were your first signs that leadership was in your wiring, right? That's who you're meant to be. Because like I told you earlier, you epitomize what a female woman leader should be.
Oh,
And
that's
if
so
I think
kind.
of one, I
Thank
think
you.
of you. What were those signs? Did you have any, or you're just gonna be like, this is who I am and how I was made? What was that look like to you?
Well, a couple of things. I'm a firstborn child, so that certainly played into it. And
The
I
oldest
had
daughter. Thank
the
you, Taylor
oldest,
Swift.
right? And I have two younger brothers who have definitely paved their own paths, but they're twins, and my mother relied on me a lot to help with them. And she actually teases or, jokes that I helped raise them. And I don't know about all that, but I definitely was very hands-on with them. But I had a very defining experience when I was very young. When I was 6 years old, I grew up dancing. I loved dancing. And I was with this studio, and they would award somebody, every recital once a year an award. And when I was six, I won Miss Personality. So I'm sure that I wasn't any kind of fantastic dancer when I was six, but I did this like baby blue tutu, and I did my thing, and I had a little ballet routine, a solo routine. And it was kind of crazy because I was just, certainly not expecting that. But I think that really gave me super early confidence in who I was, what I could do, who I could potentially be. And I loved dance just so much for that. And I think I really just it was a great foundation for everything in my life, basically.
Yeah. How has your cultural, personal, or even your family background, we were talking about this just before we jumped
Mhm,
on,
mhm.
shaped the way that you show up as a leader?
That's such an interesting question, especially as I started advocacy later in my career. I had probably been practicing dentistry already 15 years or so. And what I noticed was that I was one of the very few women in the room and one of the very few minorities. Minorities first, and then women, we were very, very, very minimally represented. And I really work toward encouraging young women to really step up. I'm really, like we all do, we gravitate toward people that are similar to us and have similar
Yes.
energies and just, passions and that kind of thing. And I think just having grown up really differently, because as you had mentioned, so I'm actually an immigrant. My parents are from the Philippines and India, and we all moved here when I was pretty young. I was probably three-ish. And I grew up realizing how different I was. I dressed funny. I ate funny foods. My parents had accents. And because they were not raised in the United States, the way they talked, having to figure out social clues and, how to fit in basically. And I learned a lot of kind of embarrassing lessons as I grew up, and nobody could guide me. My parents were super busy. I mean, typical immigrant story where they're just working, working, working. They're really trying to fit in. They're trying to make their way. They were doctors when they both came to the US, but they had to do a lot of things starting over. And I think that really, what really sort of sits with me is that I didn't have somebody to say, this is not the kind of thing you say. This is not what you wear. This is not how you act. And so what I really try to do now, I think I'm so empathetic with young people that are coming up in our profession that have this ability to be great advocates, great, kind of spokespeople, mouthpieces for the profession. I really work on trying to bring them up. And it's funny because I've been on the Washingtonian top dentist list for quite a while now, but I truly felt like, oh, I see some of these folks on there and I've seen their work. I don't know that I would personally think that they're a top dentist or better than me. And I said, but how come I never get, how come I was never getting recognized? And so I got my ballot yesterday to vote on my colleagues to see who I would recommend. And I thought about three young ladies that I've been mentoring, and they're all about 35. So they've gotten their feet wet. They've been in the profession a bit. They're all super motivated and whip smart and just great human beings, and they really love dentistry. And I was looking at, who I can nominate, and I thought, gosh, are they ready? Like, have they been in it long enough? And I'm like, you know what? They are. And this is my chance to help somebody because I didn't get that help. And so I'm very excited about really just recognizing and trying to pull people up with me and stand by my side. And they're so grateful. And I'm like, why are you grateful? I said, you deserve this. And I'm just happy that I recognized it enough to be able to help bring you along in this journey.
I love that. When did you first realize that your voice actually mattered? That staying quiet for women like you and I
Mhm.
was no longer an option? Was there a specific defining moment?
I do a lot of stuff with the Academy of General Dentistry, and the people there are amazing. They're super wonderful. They're just really passionate. I know I talk about passion all the time, but they're very passionate about dentistry, and they're good people. They want to help you. And if they know that you need some help, they're right there. But I have to say that when I first started going to these big meetings, like the House of Delegates and different council meetings where the top people in general dentistry from across the country and Canada are in these meetings. And I have to say I was super intimidated, even though I felt like things that other people said maybe could have been said differently or framed differently. I was still intimidated, and it's taken time. I sort of like to sit in the background and evaluate everything and, like just see where we fit in, that kind of thing. And just to make sure that I'm actually saying something that is important and pertinent and meaningful versus just taking up space just to get up to a microphone and talk. And I was telling one of my mentors that I got up to the mic actually just last month, a few weeks ago, at the House of Delegates. And I'd been many times, but this is the first time I actually spoke publicly in front of, hundreds of people in that capacity. I've lectured, of course, but as far as like a leadership capacity. And it was very well received. And I felt really relieved and like, okay, now I can do this. But I think with my personality, I think I'm very much perceived as an extrovert because I do a lot of things where people see me, but I am a little, I don't want to say shy. I'm an introvert in the sense that I need a lot of recovery time, a lot of downtime, a lot of quiet time just to sort of get my thoughts together, just to rest my body, the whole thing. And I just feel like it all kind of comes together now that with the speaking that I do and the advocacy that I do, I've sort of forced myself to do these things because I know that I have something to say. And so my whole journey has been just a little, little stepping stone, stepping stone. You know how they say, you just, break it off in small bites.
Correct.
So that's basically, how it's come along.
That's a perfect segue because my next question was going to be about our identifying as introverts, right? We're both twinsies in that. What do people misunderstand the most about introverted leaders?
Well, I think that they just think that we have this unlimited energy and unlimited capacity to give, and that's incorrect. Like when people think about introversion and extroversion, I think they also think that, oh, they're super quiet, they're introverted, and they're super boisterous and they're extroverted. But if you look at the other definitions, it's about, do you get fueled by people or do they suck you dry?
Yes.
And of course, it depends on the person, right? You could be with certain
Mhm.
people and they can just, you can just be filled with this like energy and just like this, you could just go for hours and just, chat, 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 chat. But other people do like suck the life out of you. I mean, we all have some patients that are like, you have to keep smiling. And it's like, okay, is this conversation ever going to be over? Because they take a lot from you. And I think that's what people don't understand, that sometimes when you give so much on the outside into the outside world, that you are going to need time to really just have your quiet
Refill your
time.
own cup. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm going to be at home all day tomorrow. I have to do some little busy work for the holidays, and I'm going to a cookie party, so I'm going to bake all day, and I basically do not want to leave my house. I don't want to answer the phone. I don't want to do anything. I just want to like have some music playing and just kind of
That's your happy place. Yeah, you get self-care
regroup.
right there.
Exactly. And people think that resting is self-care, and it absolutely is. Like it's just you have to take care of your body before you start taking care of everybody else and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Also with, us introverted type leaders, I think people think that because we're not the first ones to speak up, we're not the loudest, that
Hmm.
there's no substance or value to what we might bring to the table when it's actually the other way around. Like you said, you actually take the time to sit back, to listen, to process, and only speak when you have something of value to add, not because you like the sound of your own voice.
Right, right. But I do have to say, sometimes you can see it on my face. Yes. So I am guilty, but sometimes it can't be controlled.
Well, sometimes it's a good thing too.
Right, right.
A lot of women doctors feel intimidated by policy conversations, and we won't get
Hmm.
into all
Hmm.
the political stuff,
Hmm.
excuse me, that's going on not just within dentistry, but around us. But even in wherever you as a person may be trying to make a change, what
Hmm.
is the entry point that you think they are missing with, just being intimidated? Simplify this for us.
Hmm. Hmm. You know, the general public doesn't realize how important dentistry is to overall health, whether it's soft tissue or bone loss or the clenching and grinding or the fracturing of restorations in teeth. And I was actually going to do a little snippet on my social media today about, for example, things that we see on social media. There's so much misinformation out there. So where we start is the education part, right?
Yes.
We have to just educate the public. And whether or not you believe in fluoride, whether or not this and that, whatever. But I mean, I saw this product and it showed like this person's teeth. It was like a caricature of teeth, and it was like all like this grummy, stained and buildup and all this stuff. And they showed this like gel that they're like, look, and if you do this, you don't have to go to the dentist and it'll take it all off. And I was like, that is just a blatant lie. And I think explaining to people that the absolute basics, the most minimally invasive, minimal cost, minimal discomfort thing to do is just to A, get your teeth checked and cleaned at the dentist and then brush and floss. You don't have to buy all this special stuff. You just have to be consistent, right? And I use a lot of analogies in my office. With guys, I use cars, and with ladies, I use weight. Because we talk about you can't just do something a whole lot and then like don't do it for a while. Or with a car, you can't go four-wheeling and just spray it with the hose and expect for it just to all magically, sometimes you need professional intervention. So just things that just sort of bring it down to a way that it's so easily understandable that, a child could understand. Well, hopefully a child, but
Right.
um, But yeah, but with the advocacy thing, it's really just about education, whether it's talking with people in the community or talking with kids or talking with lawmakers when we lobby on Capitol Hill. We have to just break it down so they understand. It's not about can dentists do XYZ? It's about if we can get the message out there, then the overall health of America could improve. And there's a very high percentage of people that miss work to dental related injuries. And we all know that emergency rooms cannot handle dental emergencies. They don't know how to do it. And so that person on the weekend who breaks something or is in pain can't go to work Monday because they're going to have to go to a dentist. So if they got to the point where they were seeing their dentist consistently, we could see these problems before they happen. And so this is just like the message, that it seems very cut and dry to us, but we do have to keep reminding people that this is what needs to happen. So
Yeah.
education is the immediate key.
There we go. That simplifies it. You are who I call a true definition of a girl boss, right?
Oh.
Uh, how how do you create clarity personally for yourself and also inside your practice when everything that you do is so important, probably feels so urgent, right? I got to do this, this, this. You
Mhm.
have a family, the practice, you're a leader. How do you create that clarity for yourself? What do I focus on first? What can wait? What's your process?
That's interesting that you say this because I do, if I can be humble, but yet, accepting of your compliment, I do consider myself a girl boss. And every day in my practice, because people follow me on social media and people see, and, we send out blurbs, like, hey, Dr. Samaddar speaking here, and she's going to this meeting and, whatever. But I'm the first one to also admit that a lot of things fall through the cracks. It sure looks good in videos and, on paper. Like I look amazing on paper.
No, you are
But
amazing. In period.
thank you. But systems help.
Mhm.
I'll liken it to the way I do dental work. My team knows that I use a very specific burr, and my assistant knows that when I pick up this, I'm doing this, and then I pick up the next thing, and it's very systematic. I do not go off course. And in fact, if I have a check with a hygiene patient, they'll say, I want you to look at this tooth. And I said, let me start at the very beginning. I'm going to do everything first. I do my first part of my oral cancer screening. I do my check of the soft tissue in the teeth. And then I do with the wand, I do an oral cancer screening. And I say, okay, that's done. I don't want to forget what I'm doing. And then I go back to the tooth. So systems really help. You get to a certain age too. Like I always put my keys in the same place. I always do this like this. Like I don't commit to memory things that don't need to be committed to memory.
Don't
You
take up more
gotta,
brain space than it
yes,
needed.
you don't want to suck it all up. You use that brain for what you need. You do your hard procedures in the morning. In the afternoon, you just glide into the end of the day with Invisalign checks or quick little this or whatever it is. And so just these systems, and then, like you said, the clarity of what's going on with the office, that the team is well prepared. If you're well prepared, you can get your team well prepared, and then it's a smoother day for everybody, right? For the team, for the patients, and just it alleviates stress, right? We already have enough stress. So where we can take it off is huge. And we all want to go to bed at night and just feel like we've had a good day and we've been productive, we've done something meaningful, and then we can rest easy,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah. So what I'm hearing is prioritize what's important for that
Hmm.
day at that
Hmm.
time. Have systems, checks and balances,
Hmm.
and don't try to reinvent the wheel. If it's been working,
Absolutely.
keep at it.
100%.
And then, of
Yes.
course, I know you have a fabulous team that supports you. So that,
I'm very
again,
lucky to have them. Yes.
well, I think it speaks to you as a leader because you can't just throw amazing people together without any direction. So I think it's what I
Well,
call a
thank you for
waterfall
that.
effect. It trickles down from the
Hmm.
top. Has there been a moment when you have almost quit?
Oh, so it's interesting that you ask this because there are days, right, that we just are exhausted and frustrated, and we're so hard on ourselves. I tell people this all the time. I could have 1,000 patients that love me. And if one
Mhm.
patient said, or like wrote a bad review or said to me that they were disappointed or whatever, I would absolutely be crushed.
Mhm.
And so there are days that I'm certainly dejected. I'm a normal human being, but I love the profession so much. I love what I do that even though I may not be able to do clinical dentistry when I'm 75 years old, I hope I'm not doing clinical dentistry because I'm thinking I probably should not be at that point. But I really want to stay active in whatever it is, whether I'm speaking, whether I'm continuing to mentor. I don't see myself ever leaving the dental profession. But for somebody who has had this thought, I'll give an example of when I was a kid, a teenager. I was in high school, and I told you that I was really into dancing.
Mhm.
And I was dancing about 5 or 6 days a week. It was very serious. And I was quite good. But one day I came home to my mom and I said, I don't want to dance anymore. And she was like, probably, she's like, okay, that's your choice. And now I think about it as like when my kids say that, I'm like, okay, like, yes, I'm going to be saving X amount of money and I don't have to drive all these places. But yeah, she let me quit. And I was actually really surprised that she didn't have any pushback. And I think I lasted about 6 months. But I realized that I loved it and that I just needed a little break to kind of do some other things. And then I went back and I went back full force. And I continued dancing through college and I danced on a show internationally. Like I had a tiny bit of a dancing career before I came back to school and did my prereqs for dental school. So I think all these experiences shape us, and I love that I can still draw upon it and realize that whatever part of my life, it doesn't have to be dancing. It could be something else where I'm like, you know what? I need a little break from this. And then let's see if I want to come back to it, right?
Yeah.
The
Gives you
whole
a
like
fresh
the
set of
whole little
eyes.
butterfly thing. Like if you let something
Yes.
go and it doesn't come back, it was never yours,
Never
right?
yours.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah.
You're a key opinion leader, KOL, in
Hmm.
dentistry.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that, what that looks like. What do you influence? Tell me
Hmm.
more about your work as a KOL.
The funny thing is, I've got some people at the Academy of General Dentistry who call me a dental influencer. And I'm like, I only have, X number of followers. I don't have that many. But they said, but your voice, people really listen to you and they see you and it's important. And I think we've all worked with companies that we haven't been excited about. We don't like the way they almost seem like they're money grabbing and they're just not they're for the CEOs, they're for the companies and they're not for the actual dentists, those of us who do the work. And so with being a key opinion leader, I really try to do my homework and check out companies before I say, before I agree to work with them.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm super grateful that people have I have a friend who I met through Henry Schein when I did their Dental Business Institute. Um, Abe Casbo, he just wrote a book on marketing. I don't know how he just really decided that I was like the one. He has been so instrumental in connecting me with companies. He says, "Hey, they're looking for KOLs. You would be perfect for this." And so I work with Henry Schein as a KOL. I work with Bisco. I work with NSK, the handpieces, which I love, and I work with Dental High Tech. And those are the ones that I work with. I do speak for them. And what I like about them is pretty much the same thing, kind of all the way around. The company is really committed to excellence. Bisco is family owned. Their production is in the United States. NSK is Japanese. Like, and I feel like, okay, I know the Asian, I know the Asian work ethic. And Henry Schein has always been such a great partner. I've really made, tremendous connections with them, and I love working with their products. And then of course Dental High Tech, it's also very family oriented. The founder, it's based in France, and the two founders, the grandfather was an engineer, the son was a dentist, and now their grandson is in Houston. And so it's very family oriented, and they're very, very committed to making sure that the people that use their products really know what they're doing, and they don't just like say, okay, I got it, I got this new gadget, and then they put it away and they never use it. They want people
Mhm.
to use it, and they want people to use it correctly. So I love these companies that aren't just about some silent face in the background, and it's really people that are, everyday people. They're committed to their products and to their companies and to the clients, like we are committed to our patients and to our profession
Yes.
and what we do. And that means a lot to me.
Yeah, this is companies that actually care about the personal connection with
Hmm.
their customers. Love that.
Yes,
Love that.
yes.
When you zoom out, what is the legacy you're building?
I hope that I've touched a few lives that are less anxious about going to the dentist. Perhaps they've learned a few things, even if they've never met me. Maybe they've seen something I've done. Maybe they, connect with that. I hope that I really help develop a nice foundation of leaders. Not necessarily all women, because I do mentor some younger gentlemen as well, and just people with passion who really want to make a difference, who um, just step up and do what needs to be done. I think a lot of people ride on other people doing the work, and we
Mhm.
all know that, right? So to me, it's not work. It's fun. I joke that I just go to be social. No, that's where I get my socialization, that in my office, because I said I'm going to retire. I'm just going to come to the office just to socialize. But I think just showing people the excitement behind what they do, and it doesn't even have to be dentistry, right? What if you're interested in fashion, or you're interested in, I don't know,
Yeah,
pets, and you know what I mean? Like whatever it is, like we know people that volunteer in all these different things, right? Get
absolutely.
clothes for people that have been out of work. We get them, dress clothes and help with that. Or you take stuff to your pet shelter or whatever it is, So I hope that the people that I mentor and I bring up will continue their passion and then do the same for others when they get to be a little bit older, a little bit more seasoned, and just continue this onward path.
Yeah, send the elevator back down. Yes.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. What is your next evolution? What's coming up for Sheila? What's the part you're stepping into?
Oh, well, I'm getting to the point where, realistically, dentistry is a bit exhausting. Um, my body's taken a little bit of a beating, the neck, the hands, I'm constantly massaging something. I will probably transition in the next 5 to 7 years. I'd love to do 50-50 speaking and clinical, or 60-40, something where I'm breaking it up a little bit and getting out there a little bit more, and just again presenting the message, whether it's through advocacy or whether it's through my clinical knowledge to speak. I just want to continue growing. And the thing about myself is that I do feel pretty malleable. I always have been. And as immigrants, right, you get the job done. You just do what you need to do. So whatever it is, I'm not closed off to opportunities. I'm always willing to just mentally and emotionally engage, and think about how things can fit into my life and my path. And I'm just super excited about the journey. Like it's just, I'm always eager to learn new things, and life is about learning, right? Because if you stop learning, it's done. You're done when you stop caring about
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, that's what I tell my team. If I ever say I'm done learning, man, it's the beginning of the end.
it is. It is. It is.
Yes,
And it's
yes.
important to have hobbies, right?
Oh
Things that
my
we're
gosh.
doing outside of dentistry.
Things that light us
Um,
up, that's not
yeah,
dentistry.
yeah, because unfortunately my father, both my parents, like in fact, my mother's hobby is church, but my dad, my dad never had hobbies.
Mm,
And when he retired, he went downhill very quickly. I think in 6 months he went downhill, because he wasn't like somebody who was going to sit down with a book, and he wasn't going to go play pickleball or whatever it was. And I think I wish he had developed something, but I think he was so focused on, I've got to go to work. He was up leaving at 6 a.m. and then getting home at like 11, 12, like surgery and driving to different offices and whatnot. And he was so focused on that. And it does resonate with me a little bit, because I mean, I can't find heredity. My identification with myself is who I am through what I do,
mhm.
right? Like I'm a doctor, I'm this, you know what I mean? And so that is really a huge part of my identity. But I do take time to do, some fun stuff that I like to do. So, um, I think it's just so important to have an outlet to, you know, get your mindset on something else, whether it's some sort of workout or crafting or, whatever it is that people want to do, just to.
Yeah, no, this was a very powerful reminder because I've seen this play out a lot for
Hmm.
especially the type A high achievers,
Hmm. Hmm.
so focused on the craft that
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
love that when it's time to retire, like it's almost like they've lost all sense of purpose.
Hmm. Hmm.
And like you said, then things go downhill
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
fast. So thank you for that reminder. Before we start to wrap up, I want to remind all of our listeners, viewers, if you're watching this on YouTube, I will have Sheila's social media handles, her bio, in our show notes. So do make sure you follow her on Instagram. She has a fun channel. She shares lots of important updates, news, advances. She is, one of our top docs, dentists. She's always keeping up with what's new and upcoming. So make sure you follow her. I will link everything in the show notes. As we wrap up today, Sheila, I have this last question for you. If my daughters, your, nieces, or any other younger women leaders listen to this particular conversation years from now, what do you hope they take away?
I think that it's really important to know that your voice should be heard. And it can be intimidating when you're the only female or the only person of color or just surrounded by people that are very boisterous. A lot of people are saying things that aren't meaningful. And don't be afraid to use your voice. Don't be afraid to take a stand. Don't be afraid to try something new because you're only going to get better by getting your feet wet over and over and over again. And that's what I was saying earlier about how I've pushed myself to do things. I wanted to get out there and speak. And it was very scary for me initially. And sometimes it still is, but
Mhm.
I'm getting more comfortable as I do more and more and more. I have over the last 10, 15 years. And so I just encourage these younger folks to just keep pushing yourself in that direction. Set your end goal and what are your steps that you're going to have to, work backwards. What do you need to do to get to each of these steps? And just keep plugging forward. You're important. Your voice is important. And you can do it. You absolutely can do it.
Love it. Love it. What an amazing note to end this episode on. Thank you so much for taking the
Thank you so
time.
much.
It has been a pleasure, a true honor to get to chat with you. For those listening in, you know what to do. Go follow her, leave us a review, share this episode. You know somebody who needs this to hear this conversation. And I will see everybody next time. Thank you, Sheila. What I love most about Sheila's story is the reminder that belonging isn't something you earn by fitting in. It is something you claim by finally standing as yourself. Her journey from introversion and self-doubt to advocacy and influence is proof that your voice isn't found. It's built, and it's never too late to start using it. If this episode spoke to you, share it with another woman who needs to hear it. And if you are ready to lead with more courage, clarity, and structure without burning yourself out, hey, come join our newsletter, The Expansion Edit. I'm Dr. Meghna Dasani. This is The Making of Her. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.